More on the summit. I'm joined now by Brian Beary, a journalist for European affairs. Well, there you have it, the judo master, the reality TV star, two world leaders with two very unique backgrounds finally sitting down together. Much anticipated. Your takeaway?
I think it was the highlight of the summit for many people because this is the first big the last big leader that Donald Trump has yet to meet since being elected as president. And my takeaway is that the Russians will be very pleased. Simply a meeting that was scheduled for 30 minutes went on for more than 2 hours. And whoever put in the snippet about Melania Trump coming in to have to try and stop the meeting, and for it, I mean, that's just great publicity because it shows that these two men had a lot to talk about, that they had time to bond. And it certainly appears that they struck some kind of a strong personal relationship, which the Russians were very impatient to bring about because it has been almost 6 months since he's been in the White House. And so they were really anticipating this meeting a lot.
Let me ask you about Europe, because you write about that quite a bit, European affairs. Obviously, this is your neck of the woods. The relationship between Donald Trump and European leaders, it seems as though it's been rather rocky, him moving out of the Paris Climate Agreement. There's been some leaders in Europe very disappointed in that. Of course, Prime Minister May in the UK has made that known, as has Angela Merkel. And now, and of course, there's the disappointment about the Article 5, his unwillingness to embrace it, although he did in Poland. There's been a lot written about the relationship. In fact, the New York Times writing about it. China sees opening left by Trump in Europe and quietly steps in, of course, pointing to the fact that President Xi had the meeting with Merkel in Berlin beforehand. Give me your sense of where the relationship stands with European leaders and Trump at this moment.
In general, it's not good, both on the personality side of things and on the policies. The meetings between Chancellor Merkel and President Trump have not been the warmest. Some interesting dynamics with the new French President Macron, who is both showing that he can sort of tough it out with Trump with the handshake, but at the same time inviting him to France. We'll see how that pans out. But you did mention in passing the Article 5 of the NATO, and I think that's very important. Trump was very smart in going to Poland. It's one of the few countries in Europe that would actually give him a genuinely warm welcome. He delivered a speech. He stayed on script. He hit the right notes. The Poles seemed to be very pleased with it. And he explicitly committed to solidarity with NATO allies by mentioning Article 5, something he had failed to do in Brussels when he was at NATO headquarters, which shocked many people. So I think that actually so far, between both Poland and Russia, at least, more the eastern part of Europe, he is doing better this time than he did in his previous trip. Of course, the policy differences are huge with the European Union, specifically on climate change is the big one right now. So that's not going to change.
And it's interesting, you said shocked a lot of people, including his own national security folks, who were surprised when he struck that from the language in Brussels. Last year's G20 was in Hangzhou in China, and at the end, the 20 leaders embraced innovative, invigorated, interconnected, and inclusive growth. More of this kind of global vision. He's got more of a America First vision. Where is this, when it comes to communique at the end, where do you think there's going to be these people coming together? Because it's a big question, isn't it?
Yeah, in some ways, you've had this years of, and President Obama, very sort of consensus-oriented president, these kind of communiques where everyone kind of agrees on somewhat vague wording that and Trump is definitely disrupting that because he will simply say, no, I'm not signing up to this because I don't support the climate agreement, or I'm not taking part in these discussions. So it's shaking up the way that the G20, the sort of happy family image that they like to present. But the question is, what will the outcome be? And maybe some important relationships are forged. I think as long as Chancellor Merkel isolates President Trump on the climate and has all of the other major leaders behind the Paris Accord, I think she'll count that as a win. She won't be expecting him to sign on at this point. We know he's not going to do that. So you have lots of sort of this interesting moving tapestry, which is sort of more evident, I think, this year than in other G20s.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch. Brian, always a pleasure to have you on the broadcast. Thanks for coming in.
Pleasure, Michael.